Okay, can you hear me? Hello. Hold on, I'm working on it. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, cool. All right, give me 1 second. I gotta go get a drink. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. I'm back. Well, I'm here. How's everybody doing today? Let's see. I wanted to get on here and talk about this IGC bullshit. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I wasn't talking for a while. I'm good. I'm good. Let's see. What we got in here. Trying to figure out how to use the YouTube chat instead of the StreamYard chat. And I think I'm getting the hang of it. Grandma's fine. This is my first live on my new setup. I'm not at Grandma's house. Shit. Hold on. I'm trying to get the hang of this all these new buttons. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Now I lost the chat again. Okay. I'm just gonna use this one. I'm not gonna try to do anything fancy until I need to. So here we go. Basically, this whole shit with the IgG is dangerous. I think it's this is the whole point of this. They're just trying to push this. And this is the Department of Justice interim policy for genetic genealogy. Can you guys see that? Oh, leave this fucking big. First off, it's too quiet. Man. I need some music. Yeah, they used it. They brought it out again for the Koberger case, and then they're pushing it for the Guthrie case again. Not again, but for the Guthrie case. And it's the whole issue is that's why they're doing it. I'm pretty sure because they want to get access, basically untethered access to these all these DNA. Basically, what the word's gone. All the mass got like where they got all the mass DNA. I can't. The word is gone. I think of words all day long until I'm on live, and I can't think of this. I don't know where they store it all. The storage of all the mass storage of all the DNA, like GED match, family tree DNA, all of them. And they want to get, right now they have to get a warrant, they have to be specific, and it's too much work for them. You know what I mean? They don't want to have to deal with the steps. They don't think they should have to. No, CODIS is different than CODIS, and genetic genealogy is basically using private companies' DNA, like private citizens check their DNA, and they want to use that. Yeah, and that's the thing. They've been doing this shit for years, and now it's come to the point where it's time for them to do whatever they got to do to take it to the. So I had a paper here I wanted to check out. Let's see. And I mean, they can already use CODIS whenever the hell they want, really. Sorry, I'm just trying to find this shit. And it keeps opening in the wrong tab, and it's really pissing me off. And that's also what I think is taking it. I go back and forth. If you believe what they're saying, what law enforcement's saying in the Guthrie case, and they don't have any of the footage yet, and they're still trying to get it. If you believe that, then I don't know if anybody remembers when they were trying to get when Sony got hacked, and they were trying to get a backdoor into the Apple system, and Apple was holding out because they weren't going to give up their backdoor because that it was they weren't going to give access to all that shit, and they were fighting it and and if that's what Google's doing, and first of all, they shouldn't be recording all this shit. They shouldn't be gathering all this information without telling us anyway. But that's a different story. So they have the information, I'm sure, and right now you have to get a very specific warrant and get a judge to sign off on it, and then you get a very specific time frame of the camera or what have you. It's not, you can't just get a blanket warrant. And if that's what's happening, that's what's taking so long, then that's good because Google's fighting it. Google's like, no, you're not getting just a blanket warrant. But I don't know if that's the case because I believe they should have definitely, what is it, 18 days now? They should have already had all this information already inside there. It just blows my mind. If you honestly believe they had a kidnapping and it's taken them 18 days to try to get the footage from the doorbell camera or any other camera on the inside of the house, that's I think they were just holding out so they could push for the IGG. They're acting like nothing's working. That way they can go straight to IGG. And that's going to be their go-to from now on. And I don't think that's a really dangerous slope. Yeah, and at least now we don't have any privacy now, but at least the feds and law enforcement and the government, I mean, they don't have untethered access. You know, they still have to go get a warrant and all this shit. And then you can still opt out of being in the law enforcement, like blocking their system. But they want to make it so they have access to anything, anytime, anywhere. And it's not even supposed to be like that. This is from 2019. It's the United States Department of Justice Intern Policy Forensic Genealogical DNA Analysis and Searching. The purpose and the scope. The purpose of this intern policy is to promote Jesus, I can't talk today. The purpose of this intern policy is to promote the reasoned exercise of investigative, scientific, and prosecutorial discretion in cases that involve forensic genealogical DNA analysis and searching. It provides guidance to department agencies when formulating a thoughtful and collaborative approach. To important interdisciplinary decisions in cases that utilize this investigative technique. So there's rules. Collaboration between investigators, laboratory personnel, and prosecutors is important because the decision to pursue FGGS may affect privacy interests and the consumption of forensic samples and law enforcement's ability to solve violent crimes. Right there. The decision to pursue FGGS may affect privacy interests, the consumption of forensic samples, and law enforcement's ability to solve violent crimes. The department will continue to assess its investigative tools and techniques to ensure that its policies and practices properly affect its law enforcement mission, and is committed to respect individual privacy and civil liberties. This interim policy establishes general principles for the use of FGGS by department components during criminal investigations and in other circumstances that involve department resources, interests, and equities. The scope of this interim policy is limited to the requirements set forth herein. It does not control investigative, scientific, or prosecutorial activities or decisions not specifically addressed. The department's individual law enforcement components may issue additional guidance that is consistent with the provisions of this interim policy. Application background. Where's the one I wanted to look at? Okay, right here. Limitations. Hold on, what's this say right here? Okay, this is good right here. It's important to note that personal genetic information is not transferred, retrieved, downloaded, or retained by GG service users, including law enforcement, during the automated search and comparison process. In addition, the investigative use of FGGS involves different DNA technologies, genetic markers, algorithms, and databases from those used by CODIS. Information and data derived from FGGS is not and cannot be uploaded, searched, or retained in any CODIS DNA index. Because they can't just put CODIS is a criminal database. You can't just have the public and criminals. You can't just search. That's everybody. You know what I mean? That'd be like going to a stadium and searching everybody as they come out the door looking for weed or anything. And limitations. If the search of an FGG profile results in one or more genetic associations, the GG service typically generates and provides the service user with a list of genetically associated usernames, along with an estimated relationship, the amount of DNA shared by those individuals. A genetic association means that the donor of the sample may be related to a service user. However, information derived from genetic associations is used by law enforcement only as an investigative lead. Traditional genealogy research and other investigative work is needed to determine the true nature of any genetic association. It's something like that, Momos. Who's in here? Let's see. I've been talking for a couple seconds. We got 15 people in here. Christina, how you doing? Sandra, just me, purple one. Altruistic. Skull Machai. That's one. I don't know how to say it, so that's what you get. Skull Machai. Kind of like Sid Mackay. Skull Mackay. Skull Mackay. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, it's crazy that with all the technology that we have these days, crimes are getting solved even less. If you took all the police in this generation right now and put them back into the 70s, I guarantee no crimes would get solved. They don't know how to use anything but technology. Okay, here's the okay, here we go. Limitations. Did I just read this? A suspect shall not be arrested based solely on a genetic association generated by a GG service. If a suspect is identified after a genetic association has occurred, STR DNA typing must be performed, and the suspect's STR DNA profile must be directly compared to the forensic profile previously uploaded to CODIS. This comparison is necessary to confirm that the forensic sample could have originated from the suspect. So before you arrest them, you have to rerun the sample. Well, I mean, you have to match the samples. And do we get what we have in Idaho because they used up all the samples and they couldn't go back to compare? I mean, I don't know. They could probably just do it digitally, I would assume, but case criteria. Investigative agencies may initiate the process of considering to use FGGS when a case involves an unsolved violent crime, which Nancy Guthrie is not an unsolved violent crime, and the candidate forensic sample is from a putative perpetrator, or when a case involves what is reasonably believed by investigators to be the unidentified remains of a suspected homicide victim. In addition, the prosecutor, as defined in footnote 20 of this interim policy, may authorize the investigative use of FGGS for violent crimes or attempts to commit violent crimes other than homicide or sexual offenses, while observing and complying with all requirements of this. When the circumstances surrounding the criminal act present a substantial and ongoing threat to public safety or national security. Now, is that why they pulled the national security shit in Idaho? And then a homicide, which is there's I mean, not a homicide, a kidnapping is like that's public safety. Before an investigative agency may attempt to use FGGS, the forensic profile derived from the candidate forensic sample must have been uploaded to CODIS, and subsequent CODIS searches must have failed to produce a probative and confirmed DNA match. Oh, I knew that, Matrix. I said that since the beginning. So you have to run it through CODIS first, and if you don't get a hit, then you got to make sure this is the last resort. Last resort that this is supposed to be. The investigative agency with jurisdiction of either the crime or the location where the unidentified human remains were discovered must have pursued reasonable investigative leads to solve the case or to identify the unidentified human remains. Finally, when applicable, relevant case information must have been entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons Systems and the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. So basically, they play dumb until they play dumb, like nothing's working. Oh, nothing's working. Nothing's working. They play dumb till nothing's working until they can pull out the last resort, and that's push this IgG. So the next is going to be, hey, we can't properly use IgG. And it won't work unless we have access to all these databases. Hey, databases, got it? That's what I meant earlier, databases. So We need access to all these databases, no questions asked, for your safety. And it'll happen. Investigative caution. Investigative agencies shall identify themselves as law enforcement to GG services and enter and search FGG profiles only in those GG services that provide explicit notice to their service users and the public that law enforcement may use their sites. That law enforcement may use their service sites to investigate crimes or to identify unidentified human remains. So I don't know if it's fake. I think the first of all, why haven't they returned to their house? Nobody's went back to grandma's house. If my grandmother was missing, I'd be sitting in her house like trying to, you know what I mean? Like nobody's went back to that house. I mean, no family. Who do you think? The funder of Othram, who got Othram started, was funded by Epstein's counterpart, like groups that are tied to him. No, they said the crime scene. They said they were done with it. They said they released the crime scene. They don't need. That was before. That was like the second or third day they released the crime scene. We're done with the crime scene. Then they've been back 4 or 5 times. It's crazy. What else did I have? Oh, let's see. Sorry, guys. Ow, God, son of a bitch. And there's no real, what am I trying to say? There's no supervisor of this, of IGG. It's not it's like an investigative technique. It's not like you call somebody up and that's IGG. It's what the fuck? What am I trying to say? It's like calling up. It's like calling in. Like when you're doing tag team, like a tag team wrestling match, it's like tagging your partner. And they help you go through the research. It's not just one thing. It's many fucking things. Yeah, it has to go through all of the all the databases. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once, but stay talking. I sound like an idiot. And then you got this type shit. All the DNA things, all the DNA companies, they all say the same shit. Is this showing? Did that shit just change? Okay. This is Family Tree DNA, the law enforcement guide. So this law enforcement guide is intended for customers who have opted into investigative I can't say that word ever. Genealogy matching, and law enforcement agencies seeking information related to our accounts or our users. Then it gives the definitions, what their services are. When you opt out, you agree not to use the services for any law enforcement purpose unless you are what? Use of services of law enforcement purposes. You agree not to use the services for any law enforcement purposes or any unless you are law enforcement or acting on behalf. So what? You agree not to use the services for any law enforcement purposes unless you are law enforcement. Each law enforcement agency is required to create a limited access law enforcement agency account and register all forensic samples and genetic samples prior to uploading into our database. Law enforcement purposes, permissions to use the services is only granted after all required documentation is submitted, reviewed, and approved by us, or if applicable, by our third-party licenses. So what if the law enforcement comes in and says, here's $1,500, here's $1 million. Make sure you approve this. How to request permission to use the service for law enforcement. You got to request to submit a sample. It's got to be a qualifying case, should be sent to whoever. Circumstances where a third-party law enforcement licensee is provided access to our database to an email address provided by such third party. We will provide responses to requests from a law enforcement agency only if permission is granted or if we require additional information from the law enforcement agency. Expected response is 1 to 2 business days. Right. It's like they make it hard to find, like when you sign up for a subscription and then you want to cancel the subscription, it's way hard to cancel. Like, you got to go through so many different. It's not just end my subscription. You got to go to this email and that website. It's ridiculous. And this is just one of these DNA companies. How we respond to law enforcement requests for additional user information not accessible to the standard user. We take every action possible to protect our users' privacy. We make an effort to give the minimum degree of cooperation legally required when complying with... Oh yeah, of course. I'm right there with you. Complying with legal requests for any additional user information that are outside of the processes described above. I guess I could have read that, huh? Each law enforcement agency is required to provide the following case-related information when submitting a request: their agency, the main investigator's contact info, case number, case circumstances. In the case of anyone acting on behalf or at the direction of any law enforcement agency, there must be formal documentation of the relationship with law enforcement granting authorization. In certain circumstances, we may be required by law to comply with a valid court order, valid trial, grand jury subpoena, or search warrant for additional personal or genetic information. We require a valid legal process to consider producing any additional information about our users not stated in our terms of service. How to request. And that's all they're doing. That's absolutely all they're doing. And this is National Human Genome Research Institute. Right. What if you don't know? Or what if you you should have to check. There should be a box to check if you want to be in the law enforcement database. Every sample should be in the no law enforcement until you opt into the law enforcement. Everything should be opted out until you click opt in. But they make it the other way around. You have to find a way to opt out, and that's what they're hoping on. People that forget or don't know how or don't even know that's an option. Just like TikTok, and it was just like everywhere, everything. Hey, mate, nobody reads the terms of service. They could put anything in there. You sign up for Facebook, and they could put "We get your firstborn child," and put that on the third page, or even halfway down the first page. Nobody reads that shit. We just figure, yeah, all our shit is going into the system. So this is CODIS from the National Human Genome Research Institute. So this is what they say CODIS is. The Combined DNA Index System is the Federal Bureau of Investigation's program of support and software for criminal justice DNA databases. Law enforcement uses CODIS to compare DNA samples from crime scenes with the DNA of convicted criminals and arrestees, or with the DNA detected at other crime scenes in order to identify criminal suspects. The technology's analysis is limited to 13 to 20 designated DNA indices called microsatellites. If a match is identified in CODIS, a confirmatory sample can then be taken from the suspect. The results of the comparison between that sample and the crime scene sample can be used as evidence in court. The existence and application of DNA databases such as CODIS have spurred debate about who should be included in the DNA databases, which materials and information should be stored, circumstances for when information should be expunged, how long it should stay there. There is also controversy surrounding the use of familial searches with partial CODIS matches. which can reveal the identity of someone with a close biological relationship to the presumed criminal suspect. Familial searching is not performed at the federal level, and the FBI does not regulate use at the state level. While Maryland and the District of Columbia have passed laws specifically prohibiting familial searches, several states have policies and procedures that allow familial searching within their databases in some circumstances. And I found that wild. I didn't know that either. Like, CODIS is a federal system, the federal database, but it's not regulated federally. Each state has its own rules of what and when and why and how long a sample can be put into CODIS. So you could be in one state and your DNA is allowed to be uploaded. Go to another state with different rules with that exact same case, and the DNA would not be uploaded, would not be allowed to be uploaded. Yeah, right, exactly. I find that strange that there's not a. It should be federally. I don't know. It should be across the board. The rules should be the same. To put somebody in CODIS, it shouldn't matter what state you're in, because CODIS is national. You put somebody. It's not just running your sample against people in your state. It's running your sample against the entire national database. It's supposed to only give back if you match to your state. Like, oh, there was a match, but it wasn't in your state, so we're not telling you. That don't make no damn sense. So, people who view law enforcement specific DNA databases in a positive light believe that these databases help solve serious crimes that might otherwise remain unsolved. Those who view these databases in a negative light believe that law enforcement practices within these databases violate the Fourth Amendment. I just lost my page. These databases violate Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure without probable cause, and worry that the DNA samples collected might be used for unrelated purpose or to discriminate against individuals. And they are 100% correct. So, and when is this from? How new is this? That says 2021. Okay, so in 2013, Maryland versus King, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision that law enforcement may collect DNA samples from suspects who are under arrest for a crime but are not yet convicted. The majority determined that the collection of DNA in such circumstances, typically via a cheek swab, is similar to fingerprinting and photographing. The dissenting justices were troubled by the implications for the decision for privacy. Justice Scalia signaled deep disagreement by reading his I'm sorry, guys. Justice Scalia signaled deep disagreement by reading his dissent from the bench, warning your DNA can be taken and entered into a national database, even if you are ever arrested rightly or wrongly and for whatever reason. And that's 100% true. So basically he said what everybody else thinks. And here's where we're getting, this is investigative gene. Shit. This is the big one. Hold on one second. I need more water. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Oh Christ, Lucy's here. Everybody, get ready to be wrong. Just kidding. What's the GED one? The JED match. I still say it should be, instead of you having to opt out of law enforcement, everything should already be opted out, and you should have to click an extra box to be opted in. Yeah, that's what I was just reading the My Family DNA, their policy and their law enforcement policy, and it's they should all be cut and paste. Okay, what do we got here? Hmm. Here's JED match terms of service. Oh, Meg, I'm so pissed off about FOIAs. Hey, this is in right near me, Germantown. I'm calling. I don't. I had it what time I was gonna call, but I was gonna call at 10, but they're not open on my time. How many times? What's the at 8 a.m. there? What? How many hours is it? What's the difference? What's the time difference? Yeah, it sure is. Let's see. 3 hours. So, oh, they're already open. Let me check something. I could do like Lana does and call them on live. I'm not that cool. I'm trying to find Idaho's IgG. So Idaho doesn't have. God damn it! What did I do? God damn it! Hold on, I'm an asshole. Okay. Idaho doesn't have a written IgG policy. It goes by the federal rules. I can't figure out my fucking. Yeah, Maryland. We were just looking at that. It's Maryland versus King or something like that. I think it was on this one. Let's see. Yeah, Maryland versus King. It was Supreme Court ruled 5-4 decision that law enforcement may collect DNA samples from suspects who have been arrested but not convicted. Hey, what's up, Dago? Who else in there? William. Hey, William. Meg, of course. Lucy. So do we ever read this? No. Not a whole lot, man. Just bored. What came did live. Testing out my new setup I got. No longer at grandmom's house. So this just tells you what it is exactly. Investigative genetic genealogy, which is sometimes referred to as IgG, or as forensic genetic genealogy. Wow. It's a new investigative tool that combines the genetic analysis of crime scene samples with the mining of information in publicly available genetic genealogy databases and traditional genealogical records. This practice substantially increases the pool from which law enforcement can search for leads. In a landmark case, this technique was used to identify the notorious Golden State Killer, leading to his arrest. I'm not calling on live. I ain't got that shit. I'm embarrassed like shit probably to do that. Publicly available open DNA personal genomics. Private companies that offer IgG services. Automated algorithms generate potential relative matches by finding shared blocks of DNA between the forensic samples and the profiles of individuals who have voluntarily uploaded their results to these services and consented to the use either by opting in or opting out. IgG does not currently maintain a database like CODIS. Genetic information used in the process is not downloaded or retained. Yeah, they just use them in all their other work, all their other shit. Well, and yes, William, I believe it is too, because they can get so far off. Like, they could say anything was related. Anybody, I mean. FBI officials report that IgG technology solved over 50 cold cases. However, the technology raises some privacy concerns due to its broad use of genetic information from individuals not directly implicated in the crime. Some opponents argue that IgG technique violates Fourth Amendment protection against search and seizure without probable cause. However, the Fourth Amendment does not historically apply to information voluntarily shared with a third party. Legal scholars have posited. Who the fuck knows what that is? That recent trends in Supreme Court decisions upending this doctrine in the era of big data could have important implications. The Department of Justice interim policy on IgG went into effect in 2019. The policy, which applies to all law enforcement agencies that receive federal funding, limits initiation of IgG to cases involving an unsolved violent crime or unidentified remains of a suspected homicide victim. The Department of Justice expects to issue a final policy on IgG. What, this video? Hey, look, you can put wait, I can't click oh, I gotta be in the YouTube one, huh? Hold on. Let me get on YouTube and I'll play that video, Lucy. I gotta get in the YouTube chat. You guys know I'm slow, and now I got a new setup. I don't know where none of the buttons are. Nothing works the same. None of my hotkeys are set up. I sound weird as shit on video. I hate my voice. Okay, let's see. Can y'all hear that? this hearable, listenable, audible?
About 7% in the sane safe category, 2% in the RN, APN, MD. Five and other crime lab staff, 1% prosecutor. Shout out to the one prosecutor out there. We have 7% law enforcement, 3% students, and about 17% who fall into the other category. So once again, thank you all. Today's part of the workshop, we'll be watching a series of short videos punctuated by breaks for Q&A. So we'll discuss the content of the video.
You guys still can't.
As a reminder, the opinions, findings, conclusions, and/or recommendations expressed in this workshop are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect those of the Department of Justice. Thank you for your attention, and now I'm going to pass the virtual microphone over to Matthew Gamet.
Where's Riley Nolan? Right here.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Gamet, and I am the Laboratory System Director for Idaho State Police Forensic Services. And I'm here today with my co-host, Deb Weathereld.
Good morning. I am Deb Weathereld, the Idaho SANE SART coordinator based here with Idaho State Police.
Deb, we want to welcome all of you to this peer-to-peer engagement presented by the Idaho.
You know what's crazy about golf clubs? Sorry, I didn't mean to pause it, but I got it. If you break them in half, like if you have the aluminum shaft golf clubs instead of the fiberglass shaft golf clubs, if you bend it and break it in half, they're hollow in the middle. And that, if you're swinging and hitting something, you're only gonna get like 2 good swings, and then it's gonna break. But once it broke off, the end of that shaft where it broke is super sharp, like jagged, nasty. And if you could, that would cause like punctures. You know what I mean? If you started slicing and stabbing, it'd be like I don't know how to describe it, like a tube. You know what I mean? They're hollow, like an aluminum tube, and they, like jagged, sharp, flat. It'd be some nasty shit if somebody was like jabbed with one of them. It would cut the shit out of somebody, and that might be why the wounds are so strange looking. And I always said in the picture that is on the picture of Ethan on Xana's bed, up by the pillow, right past the pink blanket, it looks like a golf club laying on the bed. Lucy, you're right. I think they. Oh, I paused it. You guys can't see it. I think they know a lot about what happened in this case. But it doesn't go with their narrative. Okay, I'm playing this video.
State Police Forensic Services in collaboration with the National Institute of Justice and the Forensic Center of Excellence. The peer-to-peer emphasis of this event is important to all of the presenters who have been hand-selected to engage with you over the next 2 days. We wish we could be with you. We wish we could be with you in person, but the situations in the world right now don't allow for that to happen. We We appreciate our collaborators at the Idaho Peace Office.
It's in the picture that was blurred out, not the picture with the black blobs.
Standards and Training and the Forensic Technology Center of Excellence for their hard work to make this happen electronically. We have pushed the limits of the technology, and we've asked them to do things that are new to this community in an effort to engage you as attendees.
Good morning. We're very glad that you're here. Over the last year, we have worked hard on this webinar. We want to make sure that it's not only informative and helpful for you, but also enjoyable. But we're going to need your help for that part. If you will be sure as you're watching to jump in, answer the poll questions, go to the chat session and ask questions, give us your comments. It'll just make it better for all of us.
We tried to engage all types of learners throughout the various formats that we'll use over the next few days. We have blended live facilitated discussion with pre-recorded videos. We have more traditional PowerPoint, data presentations and things that you're familiar with, but over the next few days, everything is meant to educate, inform, discuss, and overall engage in the discussion of culture change as it relates to the topic of response to sexual assault in your community, state, or our country. We can do better. We must do better. And the only way to do that is through peer-to-peer idea sharing.
You know, we looked for presenters who are experts in the area, not only in Idaho, but across the nation, and we found them. These are experts who really have dedicated their professional careers to taking care of the victims and survivors of such.
Momos, if blood got in the cavity of the cylinder of the golf club shaft, it would be like filling up a straw, holding one end of a straw closed, filling it up, and swinging. Liquid would go everywhere. Like if there was blood in that up inside the cylinder, that shit would be going everywhere. Like flicking around. Like imagine turning on a hose and swinging it around.
Sexual assault, whether in the role of advocacy, law enforcement, or healthcare.
Lucy, I will be standing up for that. I don't know if that's just a Idaho thing that's going on, but that's not. I won't be sitting back and letting that happen. They're not gonna pull the we need to censor your rights. It's not that we're all sickos that want to see the blood and the gore. It's the simple fact that you're supposed to be able to look at the evidence, look at the reports, look at the photos, and know exactly 100% without a doubt what happened in that crime scene. You shouldn't even really need the pictures. You should be able to go by the reports and the evidence. But the pictures are part of it too. And the way that it even says in one of the documents that I got from Idaho, if objects are moved, if someone moves an object before the techs get there, the techs are not supposed to move that object back because they're never going to find where it was when the actual attack happened. They're supposed to photograph it like it is, mark it. For them to come in, look at the pictures and put everything back, move everything, put it back. What was the point of taking everything out of that room before the techs got there? That right there should have been enough to end the whole case. They moved it, and it says in the reports, we put the furniture back as best as we could according to the photographs. Why was anything in that room touched before techs got there?
they're our friends. We've worked with them side by side as we're working to address the culture changes needed in Idaho to address sexual assault.
We've divided the day into bite-sized segments of information. In all cases, this is headlined by Safer Working Group recommendations. As you all know, the Safer Working Group was developed to address SAFER, the Sexual Assault Forensic Evidence Reporting Act of 2013, which recommends in part the development of best practices and protocols for the collection and processing of DNA evidence in sexual assault cases. The Safer Working Group developed 35 recommendations through a consensus process. We will discuss the Idaho approach to addressing these recommendations in an effort to urge a national discussion on best practices and culture change. Please engage with us to make this a true peer-to-peer learning experience. Deb, I think it's time to kick this off. What are we going to learn about in chapter 1?
Well, we're going to learn about what we didn't know about in Idaho and how we decided to approach that.
All right.
Welcome.
Let's bring on the first clip.
Welcome. Thank you for being with us today. My name is RN, Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. I work with the patients in our state who have been sexually assaulted to provide care for them, and I also teach other nurses to do the same. I'd like to share with you a little bit about Idaho. We are the 14th largest in the union, although we are the population of 1.7 million. Our ruralness definitely impacts our ability to provide care sometimes. We have 55 hospitals in the state, only licensed for 1 beds or more. The access only, and we do have 3 completely standalone ERs across the state. The crime report for 2020, which is a publication put out by the Idaho State Police, noted that we had a little over 2,000 reports of sexual assault in Idaho in the year of 2019. Those offenses include rape, sodomy, and sexual assault with an object. Unfortunately, our rates have climbed 5% over the previous year and 19% over the past 5 years. Arrest rates are around 13%, so we mirror the national images pretty closely. The Sexual Assault Forensic Evidence Reporting Act, or SAFER, was created to address the backlog of sexual assault kits across the nation and to recommend best practices for communities to address sexual assault. In 2018, the Idaho legislature passed a bill that created the Idaho SANE SART coordinator. Initially, this was filled by an RN who
who was the one that was that Barachoa that got fired from his job? That looks just like my butt.
who had experience as a SANE, and she worked for ISP for about 8 months. She did a lot of work in that period of time. She was able to identify some of our programs across the state, and she created our 40-hour SANE A, or SANE training for adults and adolescents, that we use today to train nurses across Idaho. In the last year, we revamped that original 40-hour course and have had it approved by the International Association for Forensic Nurses, or IAFN, and have taken it across the state. We have had 8 classes scheduled this year. Unfortunately, like the rest of the nation, the nursing staffing shortage has impacted us, and 3 of those classes have had to be canceled. The good news is all of those have rescheduled for 2022, and we have a full slate of SANE classes scheduled already for 2022. ISP offers these classes to hospitals and SANE programs, any nurse who's interested in becoming a sexual assault nurse examiner, at absolutely no cost. Since the beginning of this role, we have been able to train 103 nurses. I know that may not sound like a lot for some of you who have 50 or more nurses at one training, but in Idaho, that's a big deal. Remember, a lot of our hospitals are critical access, and even to pull 1 or 2 nurses from staffing can be a real challenge for them from time to time. We are committed to ensuring that our hospitals, our SANE programs, our child advocacy centers, and private SANE businesses, yes, we have one of those in the state, have the personnel they need to provide victim-centered, trauma-informed care.
YouTube just blocked my comment. How the hell did my own comment get blocked?
And sexually assaulted. My personal goal is to improve access to standardized care across Idaho after sexual assault. I don't care if you've been assaulted in somewhere like Boise, our largest city in the state, or Preston, a tiny little village. I want the care that they, without training, we don't do that here. And although they tried to have a larger center, we know that we were re-traumatizing victims. We're changing that, and we is educating our law enforcement across the state, helping them understand what a SANE is, what a SANE is not, what we can do and what we don't do. I like to make sure that nurses and law enforcement both we provide will be done properly, and the chain of custody will be maintained so that it is valuable. Nurses saying, Deb, I'm not really comfortable doing this. I don't think I know enough. And so in addition to all of our training, I worked with our forensic scientists and created a spreadsheet.
Where,
they keep track of the things they see on the kit that could be improved. And I then send a personal letter to every collector saying, thank you for the work that you do to care for these patients. On this date, you collected this kit number. These would be our suggestions for improvement. And then I have a for future consideration only, where I just review our expectations for evidence collection. That we want 4 dry swabs used for cavity collection and 2 damp swabs used for any non-cavity collection. Things like that, just to keep things a little easier for these nurses who may not see more than 1 sexual assault in a year's time. While the focus as a SANE is on the healthcare, we recognize it takes a village to care for these patients, and we partner with advocates, law enforcement, and prosecutors. We'd like you to hear from some of those people as well.
Today, we will hear from Matthew Gammon, the director of our State Crime Lab, Rylene Nolan, the manager of our State Crime Lab headquarters in Meridian, Idaho, Senator Melissa
fucking up.
Idaho District 19, Gina McBride, the executive
My
director
hamster
the
wheel
domestic
of
violence
my
of the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office.
internet.
Elaine Bean, the Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney for Bonneville County. Retired Detective Angela Weeks of the Nampa Police Department. Chief Craig Kingsbury of the Twin Emily Mangas, Forensic Nurse Coordinator.
No, it's
So
definitely
Matthew, it's
me.
interesting that Idaho State Police is where this initiated. Can you share a little bit of how that started?
Or maybe it's
About
we'll blame it on Lucy because this is her
2014, we
video.
were looking at several NIJ webinars and other presentations that were made about the prevalence of kits, unprocessed kits in states and regions. And we didn't really know what the status of those kits were in Idaho. So when I came back from those conferences, we spent some time talking in our management team about how we could find out. So we did an audit. It wasn't a very effective audit. It was a voluntary audit of people that were willing to share information with us. And we were disappointed that we didn't get more data. And so we really didn't know still what the problem was. So we started visiting with people that might be able to give us more data and more information. And as we did so, we started to set up a group that we now call ISAKI, or the Idaho Sexual Assault Kit Initiative. And that group has
Yeah, that's been my big thing.
Initially with very few members, people that we knew were
Lucy.
interested in the topic to discuss topics in our state around sexual assault.
What actually was
Notice
done.
that Senator Wintrow is a key member of this team. How did we get a senator to sit on our team?
It was really interesting. Senator
Why
Wintrow
not
came
use
out for a
IGG?
tour of the crime laboratory and just a general tour of the crime lab. And as we went through and as she and I talked,
Yeah,
we
that's
were
why
able to talk a
that's why
little
me
bit
and Miss
more
Boss
about
could
some of the
probably
problems
get
in the
along.
DNA database, some of the problems that we
She's
were
one of my
seeing with
favorites.
sexual assault kits. And she became aware. I told her that we had this meeting going on and that it was, I think, just maybe a week or a few days away. She asked if she could attend that meeting, which I very eagerly invited her to that meeting, because anytime that we can get a legislator or someone that controls funding and has an access to that legislative process, we definitely want them involved. And so she came and was a very active participant on ISAKI. They took her in very quickly. She had great ideas. She had interest in the topics. And so she just became a natural member of the team. And it's a group that I've never experienced before in anything that I've done. They're a very, very collaborative group. They're very interested in the topic, obviously. They're spending
Wait, does
their
anybody
time
know if
working on this
Savannah
topic in
Guthrie
Idaho. But it's an immensely very
has ties
collaborative
to
group
anybody from
that
Altham?
just donate their time, their skills, their knowledge, and it's an amazing group to be a part of. It started very small, but then we started to add people like, say, nurses, hospital administrators, and other people that we could see would be beneficial. But most of that was happening here, and so that's natural that most of those state agencies exist here. Some of the bigger hospitals exist in our metropolitan areas. But what we quickly realized was that we had the ability now to into other areas of our state. At the start of this, it was mainly just we could do video webinars, but it was through extensive video systems that were costly that we could only put in a few sites in the state. But through COVID, we got access to GoToMeeting and Zoom and all of these other platforms where people could join us from their small rural towns. And that really helped us to expand into a statewide presence.
It was my first year on the job, and I was trying to get to
business
know
that he
things that I
made
was making decisions about. And I called Matthew Gamet and said, I need to take a visit of this crime lab because I sat on Juden Rules. And I spent a whole afternoon here. And that's where I found out the first meeting of the ISAKI group, which he invited me to. That launched all of this legislation. And that team served as
Friday or something. Sorry. I think, right. Othram. I know they got ties to Epstein because they were a big he created a big lobbying firm, the Glover Park Group. Savannah's husband, and he was him. I think Clinton's press secretary, not press secretary. Who was it? I can't remember, but two of the really high up people in Bill Clinton's cabinet, as well as Hillary Clinton's personal entourage, whatever she was doing at that time, back in the Clinton Gore party campaign, whatever it was. They created Glover Park Group, which was a big lobbying firm, and they handled a lot of the campaign funds for the Clinton Gore campaign. Hey, Carmen. And it just so happens that Bill and Hillary are getting deposed the same month that their founder of their lobbying firm mother gets kidnapped. But I don't know if Savannah's got ties or any of them have ties to anybody at Othram, because I honestly think the mother Nancy died, and they're using this to push the IGG. Like, they're using the kidnapping for it because it's public safety, and it's got to be a reason. That there's been no kidnappings that have been handled like this ever before. How are they 2 weeks in and just getting the ring cams? I forget what position he had in there. He worked for Gore, I think. I think he was in Gore's cabinet. He was a senior advisor to Vice President Gore during the Clinton administration. And the Glover Park Group, they founded with Clinton's former White House press secretary, Bill's White House press secretary. Am I on? Is my microphone on? So Joe Lockhart, Bill Clinton's former White House press secretary, Howard Wolfson, Hillary Clinton's longtime communications director, Carter Askew, senior strategist for Al Gore, Michael Feldman, senior advisor to Al Gore in the Clinton administration. And it wasn't a lobbying firm, it was a consulting firm. It was one of the most, GPG became one of Washington's most influential Democratic consulting firms. But it says there are no verified personal or social relationship between Feldman and the Clintons. Bullshit. And it says GPG appears in the public Epstein documents because of client and communication overlaps, not because Feldman personally interacted with Epstein. and because he was a co-founder of the firm. Right, Leslie? Yeah. Who was wasn't it Vince Foster that got killed with the shotgun? That they said he killed himself with the shotgun? Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on. Here, watch this guy.
Page because of the variety of stakeholders in the room. So we would roll up our sleeves, draft, send it out, tussle through it, come to some agreements, and present it to the legislature. And so we've passed 5 major pieces of legislation since 2016, I think, to help transform how we're processing, tracking, and preserving sexual assault kit evidence. So what a blessing to be able to have an experience so you know directly what the system is doing. So you can bring that forward to represent somebody who's been victimized in the system, and hopefully we're helping.
All right, everyone, we're going to start our first section of the question and answer session. So we've had a few come in from the audience. So the first question we have is I guess for the panel here. The national average for arrests is about 13% of reported offenses. Do you have any stats on convictions for the primary sexual assault offense charged?
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate you queuing up the questions for us. So I do want to bring in right now our collaborative panel here, because we have the state's foremost experts on all these questions with us. We have with us on the line, and folks will join us as we go throughout the day. But right now on the line, we have Carl Noah. He's a lieutenant with the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office. We have Angela Weeks, who's a retired detective with the Nampa Police Department. We have Tina McBride, who is the DivSAC executive director, who you'll hear from in a minute. And then we also have Elaine Bean on the line with us, who is a prosecutor out of Bonneville County. And I'm not sure if those individuals can hear us now, if they can contribute in. So we'll direct this first question, I think, probably to Elaine regarding any stats on the convictions. I can tell you from a state level that is not data that we're currently tracking on. It is data that we're very interested in, and data that we have research collaborators that we'll talk tomorrow a little bit more about where we're going with that and how we will collect some of that data. But I want to turn it to Elaine. Do you have any comments there?
Thank you, Matthew. I tried to just do a quick search and got on the National Sexual Violence Resource Center website to see if they had that kind of statistic. And I haven't yet found it. I can keep looking. Like you said, in Idaho, we're not tracking that number yet. That may be a good idea to do. But as we'll talk about later in the presentation, we are focusing on more things in a broader perspective than counting success only with a conviction. So I can keep digging into it and update everyone if I do find a statistic out there that would be a national statistic.
Okay, I'm
but
back.
there wouldn't be one for Idaho that I'm aware of.
Thanks, Elaine. There's a question
I
coming
get
in
tired
from
of real life
Crystal. I think this is
interruptions.
best directed to Deb. So how did you become certified
Let's see what you got.
with IFN to teach these same classes?
That's a really great question, Crystal, because it was important for me to be certified. You can't teach until you are certified. So I am
Leslie,
a nurse,
get MPD down
but I
Tucson.
also joined the
100%.
Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Center in
Just show them how to
Idaho Falls.
bypass.
So first you have to have an RN license. It's unencumbered, meaning no discipline from your state board. And then you need to take the 40-hour SANE 8 course that teaches you how to do this, and then 16 hours of mentoring or orientation after that. And so I did those things, did the education.
Have you guys seen the I think it was on Reddit or TikTok, I'm not sure, but it was a picture of Ghislaine Maxwell at her court hearing, and they matched it up with an older picture of her, and it looks completely different. Like her nose is completely different size, and like more than what it would be when like for age. You know what I mean? Let's see if I can find it.
And then join the DVAS site in Idaho Falls. I do take call there. So I am actually a full team member there. I take call, I go over to Idaho Falls each month and stay there and take call and assist with exams there. And then it really was about a year of studying and then sitting that certification exam. So exactly how anyone would do that. You take the course, do 300 hours of SANE related work, and then sit the test.
Now, Deb, you are in a unique position. I think maybe the only one in the country that has a reporting structure through the forensics laboratory. So we actually have a SANE nurse that works for the forensics laboratory. Tell me a little bit about how that works, and tell me about the courses that we've set up, those kind of things.
So what we're currently teaching now is the SANE A course. And initially there was some confusion over exactly how will forensics and nursing work together. And that was on their side and my side as well. It actually works extremely well. As you know, you put me through a pretty extensive orientation with each forensic discipline. And as I am out across the state teaching the SANE A classes, almost without fail, every class, there's at least one time someone asks a question that I have to say, I'm not sure about that, but just give me a minute. I'll get on the computer during break and I'll check with the forensic scientists. So they were able to give me a really strong foundation in how forensic works. Once that kit is turned over to the lab, how is that processed? That's really important because we've been able to improve the quality of evidence coming in by the scientists looking at those kits for me, getting the information back to me, and then I take that back to the nurses.
And Crystal's asking a really important question in the discussion and answer section. So she asked how we funded this, and initially your funding is coming out of the STOP grant that we applied for and we were awarded. And so both salary and also some other things that we'll talk about, the facilitation of the class, setting up the class, providing resources to teach those initial classes, bringing in some
My mic was off again. I don't know what you guys heard, but this was on Reddit or TikTok, and they're just showing how completely different she looks. Let me see if I can find a better one. Excuse me. How hard is it to find shit? Oh, you seen it, Leslie? I think they would just, if she wasn't in jail, I think they would simply not televise her hearings. What the hell happened? All right, I ain't got time for all that shit. Oh, what the fuck? Just like with Brian, if he was, people say that he's a Fed, and he took the fall. He was an operative, and he took the fall. Come on. They wouldn't need to have somebody take the fall and sit in jail. They would just not have him in jail. You know what I mean? They've been going so far, pushing to make us believe he was in jail. Okay, I'm gonna get that video back. Hold on. If I can figure out how to. But yeah, that first page, I don't know where the hell that shit's at now. Blue Devil. Once it gets X'd out, I don't know how to get it back. Let's see if I can find it. I'm not even gonna try. Yeah, like with Epstein. I mean, they cataloged everything that was in his cell when he killed himself. But they found one noose, and the doctor said that wasn't the noose that he used. They redacted it. So how could that be?
Consultants to help us with those initial classes, and then also collection items, everything from bags to cameras, everything to those sites around our community and around Idaho. But tell us about, she's asking about the improvement sheets that you mentioned. How do those work? Tell us a little bit more.
So the improvement sheets, it's kind of a two-pronged thing. I worked with the.
We were talking about Epstein. Right, but they could tell us, they could put up a person and say, this is the one who did it. How do we know what happens when he goes out of the courtroom? He gets handcuffed, walks out of the courtroom, into the van, gets transported somewhere, he changes his clothes, gets in his car, and drives away. You know, how we don't know that. We can't prove that.
Going through the kits, they actually look at each piece of that evidence and say, this was a cavity collection. So did we use 4 dry swabs? And this is a non-cavity. Did we use 2? If the kit was expired, our kits will expire because there's a small vial of sterile water in there. So we look and say, if that kit was expired, we don't ask them to throw the kit away. We ask them to replace that vial with a vial of water from their organization and document. So was that done? So they actually go through and look at each piece of that. And then I go back to that spreadsheet and I can see the kit number. I then can backtrack to the hospital and find the individual nurse who collected that. And then I sit down and I have, it's actually a form letter. but it starts with saying, number one, thank you for the work that you do, because this is hard work. It's important work. We know that we impact people. This was a cavity collection. So did we use 4 dry swabs? And this is a non-cavity. Did we use 2? If the kit was expired, our kits will expire because there's a small vial of sterile water in there. So we look and say, if that kit was expired, we don't ask them to throw the kit away. We ask them to replace that vial with a vial of water from their organization and document. So was that done? So they actually go through and look at each piece of that. And then when I
Replace
go
the bottle
back
of
to
water
that
after they
spreadsheet
use.
and I can see the kit number, I then can backtrack to the hospital and find the individual nurse who collected that. And then I sit
how
down
does
and I have,
sterile
it's actually a
water-
form letter, but it starts with saying, number one, thank you for the work that you do, because this is hard work. It's important work. We know that we impact people's lives for the rest of their life. And so I want to acknowledge that right up front, and then tell them why the feedback is being given, because actually, as I travel the states, nurses asked for that feedback. And so
They wouldn't even let YouTube just stopped me from posting throw the whole kit away in the chat.
kit number, and these would be our recommendations.
Now, I want to come to Tina, and I'll just give you a second to think, but I'd like you maybe to address how those are received by the nurses and those doing collection. But while you think about that, we'll come there in just a second. But Deb, tell us a little bit more about the certification of the course and what that involves, who it's certified through, and what that gives to the nurses that are attending.
So when you put together the 40-hour same aid course, IAFN actually has a planning guide and an education table. And so you go, it's very, very detailed. When you go through and cover all of that, you have to actually apply for them to take a look at that for you, make sure that you have submitted enough information that they can be comfortable that you are covering the information they ask you to cover.
All over the
And
place.
then pay a fee to have that done. So then every 2 years, it's only good for 2 years. And that's so, of course, that they can make sure that we're staying up to date with the information that we're presenting.
So we're certified through the Montana.
I don't know what the fuck is happening, but my sponsor needs to fucking pay their bill before they get sent home in a box.
And also
I paid
through
that bill.
the International Association of Forensic Nursing.
Yes, we went through IAFN to approve our content, and we went through the Montana Nurses Association to provide the CEUs, or continuing education for the nurses. And the reason that we did
I
that
take the author's
is just
labs,
because of one of the rules that
sponsorship.
IAFN has about who can be on the planning committee, which would have cut me out. And as the only nurse at ISP, I had to be on the planning committee for the education. So that's why we went to 2 different places.
So the nurses get the training hours, they get the continuation of training hours for them. They also get the 40-hour course, so they could sit for the certification
do
if
it,
they chose
Steve.
to
Please
after
don't do it.
fulfilling the other requirements. But is that the focus of these
Don't
courses?
show them your true
The
colors.
focus really is the healthcare. That we're nurses.
I think Dago's coming on
and that
at
is
4
something
o'clock,
that
ain't
I really want reinforced over and over and over again. Although we're forensic nurses, we are first and foremost nurses. And so what we do is healthcare.
he?
We
Isn't he
want
having
to
custody
address the
queens on or
physical
something?
needs and the psychosocial needs of the patients who've gone through a tremendously difficult situation. And then we also talk about if the patient wants forensics done, what
All
we
right, here's
do,
what we
how
do.
to do that well, and how to do.
Well, I guess you guys want to finish this? It's only got 2 minutes left.
Do that properly so that when that evidence is turned over to law enforcement, it's usable. But the focus really is.
And then we'll watch Hobbs' video.
So the sheets, the letters
Go
that
to
are being
Dago.
sent out by Deb, how are those being received by those that are out in the field? When you've received those letters, or your nurses have, how are those received, that feedback that you're getting from the state lab?
Actually, our nurses like that relationship.
Who's going to bed?
You know, they all want to be providing quality
I think Dago,
services.
yeah. Are you talking about
And
what
so
I said about
I don't
Dago?
believe any of them have had a problem with that feedback at all. The nurses also have to have these cases peer reviewed. So essentially it's the same thing. It's just coming from a different source with a different set of eyes.
Well, I
So
figured that.
for us, it's
I
not a
just
problem.
said the wrong
I've
thing,
not
so.
had any complaints from any of my nurses.
My brain didn't tell my voice.
Fantastic. And I know that the lab really appreciates it, the feedback that's going from them, and then maybe some feedback coming back from the nurses. It's helpful to the lab to know why things are happening so that we can address those issues in real time. Let's bring in Angela.
That was
Angela,
my
if you
favorite.
can hear us. Crystal's asking a question about our
I
training.
love
And I know
night work.
that you answered a little bit of this in the chat, but go ahead and tell us what we're doing for law enforcement education in the state.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matthew. Glad to be with you guys this morning. We actually just wrapped up at the end of last year. Well, I guess it was in the fall, closer to the fall, where we did 6 site locations across the state of a full day of trauma-informed sexual assault investigations. And it was a primarily law enforcement geared course, but we opened it up to nurses, to advocates, to prosecutors, to others who are also doing this work, because we all need to understand the impact that trauma has on our victims. And I know that she had also had a question regarding the funding related to that, because, you know, we're always wondering how we can support bringing in training for law enforcement. And it's looking at who your partners are in your community, you know, reaching out to the Rocky Mountain Information Network that provides resources and support for law enforcement agencies. They were a great partner of ours that helped support that training. And what we found in our experience of traveling the state is that a lot of people were saying, wow, I wish we had had this earlier, and we need to get more people trained around this topic.
They worry about
Thanks, Angela.
less of the
Paul, you had a
feelings
great
of their
question
people.
in the chat. We're going to address that later on in the presentation, and if not, let's come back to that in a future segment here.
Just like Idaho, cut that shit off in the middle of the son of a bitchin' thing. You guys want to watch Bob or what? Let's see, what time is Daredevil coming out? 4:15. Make Lucy happy. Putting on Bob. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. Roll Lucy.
Take a swing at me? Please do. Please do. I haven't seen anybody that's ever talked about this case that I wouldn't beg for them to take a swing at me. Beg it. Beg it. Come on.
Beg it.
Woo. Don't get me fired up about this. But I want to make sure it's clear.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun.
It's clear, Bob.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
100% clear.
Hello, welcome to the Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And, you know, I think I'm going to go ahead and just take off for a few days and let the clickbaiters out there make up their magical fantasies all they want. And I'm just going to, I got to tune them all out because they're, like I said yesterday, I mean, you ain't got to lie to kick it. Apparently, these dudes do have to lie to kick it. Either that or they definitely have to lie to kick it. So let them all lie to kick it. I'll just take a step back, let them have some.
Who the fuck is kick it?
Apparently, there's a demand out there for ridiculousness in this case. But I'm not going to take days off from working, actually, though, because I sent out a post yesterday, let everybody know that my science experiment has arrived. Now, it's in a heck of a big box. I hope I don't finally get this thing opened and it's a plate or something. It's supposed to be a
big black
in
dildo.
sheath. So some of the things, and I'm not going to open that thing until I'm under some type of controlled condition. That's the part I got to figure out. I think I'm going to contact some universities in the area. Maybe they're lab departments and see if I can get somebody to agree to to open this thing on camera and swab it for goodness, that would be huge. If it doesn't, then I will absolutely cross that off my certain theories that I have in this. I can only take so far until we have to break out some scientific experiments, and whatever the results are, that's what I'm going to go with. If there's nothing on that thing, then I'll assume it's not possible. If there's something on that thing, then I'll assume. But I got to figure out how to do that. Like I said, in a controlled environment, I'm not a lab tech, so I don't want to do it and mess it up. The other thing I want to look at, and one of the main reasons that I ordered it, is I want to see how the sheath and the markings on the sheath look right when you take it out in the picture on the sheath in it. I think that from a brand new perspective, comparing it to that may even give us an idea. Does it look like it, does it create those same indentions from the factory, meaning that thing was brand new? Or is it something that would take a little bit of time to create those indentions? So that's the things that I want to look at in this. And then I've also got a lot of other things that I'll be working on around. It's kind of interesting that WSU lawsuit, when you go through and you look at what the plaintiffs have filed, and then you look at the response from WSU. WSU is we may confirm their denial of those accusations because it's been made in statements by the law enforcement, and it's hard to refute statements that they've made publicly of statements that actually confirm their denial of it. And that's just another thing. And then I've got my final assertion from all the evidence around the crime scene. I still haven't done the video yet where I show you how I've come to my determination of what happened in the room with Xana, which there was back in and it's I've already gone, kids, the wall comes back and then ends up to the right. And it's clearly an expert report of what took place in there as relates to Xana. And then once I complete that, then I can give my final
absolutely proof
video of my forensic breakdown using just the evidence of the crime scene of what actually took place. And that's where I hear, well, what about let's debate the four. And they ignore every piece of evidence in the case, but then they want to go to the 2 a.m. timeline. What evidence do they have? The Chapin's mom made a statement that, boy, 2 a.m.'s a dark hour. Boy, I tell you what, you got some evidence there. That changes.
But Pav, he surely don't want to touch how the audio from that app, when you export it, it comes out separate. And if it wasn't put back together correctly, if it wasn't matched up, you'll never know what audio goes where. And that video is coming. Now that I got my shit, I'm putting it all together. I'm about halfway done.
Is everything, doesn't it? Well, that changes everything that she made that statement. Goodness. I mean, I don't know how law enforcement came up with 4 a.m. Well, I don't know. Maybe the fact that you got a DoorDash driver showing up at 4 a.m. with some DoorDash food that looks to me like was eaten before the attack. Then you've got, I don't know, gun rack guy racking his gun, walking to the house right before 4.
If it came at 4 o'clock and was eaten before the attack, that was she must have scarfed that shit down.
4 a.m. Oh, I don't know. Then you got this white car that was circling that parks and then just happens to speed off afterwards. Oh, then you've got actual sounds from the house, like boom, boom, boom. Then you got Murphy running out the back door barking. Then you got text messages that start from the only witnesses in the case, whether they were in on it or not. Those text messages start right then, and phone calls, and all hell breaks loose right then. So I don't know. Is there any evidence to the 4 a.m. timeline? Well, I would say that, yeah, there's nothing but evidence to the 4 a.m. timeline. Is there any evidence to a 2 a.m. timeline? And here's where everybody loses their mind because, well, yeah, we've got the audio. I feel bad for them. I tried to help them, but they're just going to destroy themselves because they don't know this. That back 3 years ago when the Linda Lane tapes were released, we've been all through this with these sounds. People have had 3 years to try to corroborate anything to the sounds, anything. They failed for 3 years. And there is a whole group of content creators out there that went into that strong and still believe it to this day. And you know what? You know how much traction they've got in the YouTube community? I mean, I think some of them might be up to 4,000 subs by now with that same old BS. Now we got all these new people that are trying to dig into that because they need content. And guess what it's going to do? It's going to stifle their credibility on YouTube. And I've tried to steer them away from it, but they won't listen to me. So go ahead and destroy your own credibility. That's what you're doing. You're destroying your own credibility. So I'll just take a step back. Do it. Let them hang themselves. That's the best way to do it. But in the meantime, I'm going to be working hard on real things in this case and trying to actually make a difference versus muddying the waters and trying to confuse the masses out there so differences can't be made. I can see now there's a faction of dummies that want everything confused so that we can never make any progress. And if that's the case, that's the case. All I can do is try to bring the truth that I can and let them do what they do. So more power to you. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms. And until next time, Pavarotti's out.
So you got a lot of these people, just like with the Amino Black. People were out here explaining it to the T how it works. And they were still, it's all blood, it's all blood, it's all blood. A lot of people would rather this case not be solved because it keeps them going. And they don't care what they put out. And they read only the comments that people pay. If you pay, you can get your comment read. But oh yeah, guess I'll end on this. Guess what I got today or yesterday? Let's see here. I got my YouTube, whatever the hell it's called. Yeah, right here. I'm eligible for super thanks. Eligible for super thanks, turn on gifts on live streams, and I can do memberships. I can make people watch ads before they watch my shit. Basically, YouTube is saying I'm finally good enough. They're gonna let me start making them money. You've reached the point to where we will take some of your money I mean, we'll let you make some of our money. Let's see what else. Memberships, supers, and gifts. Super chat, brand connect. Oh, I can make a brand and let YouTube start making money off of my brand. Oh, I'm not sharing. God damn it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I was just, me and ZTH are talking. We might do oh, you know who Jeffy is? I didn't think anybody knew who Jeffy was. Me and ZTH might start doing lives together. Couple little small channels. I just emailed him and asked him about it. Nothing serious, nothing set in stone. My niece put me onto that. But anyway, this is what I was just talking about. YouTube let me in the. I'm almost in the cool kids club. Yeah, I'm my own brand. They can eat a dick. I'm not doing shit for them. And then you got this. Let's see. Your video can't be monetized. You're blocked in some territories. You're blocked in some territories. You're blocked in some territories. You can't be monetized. You woohoo for me. Fuck out of here. The only reason they do this is so they can make money on other people's creativity. At the same time, censoring that same creativity because you can't do exactly what you want, or you'll get kicked out of the cool kids club. I don't want to be in the cool kids club. Oh, I can get a media kit. Learn about paid promotion. And then also, you know what I can do? Have YouTube with all my information when they send me a W-2 or an I-9 form. However they're gonna want to work that shit. I ain't doing none of it. I get paid if you guys want to donate. I get paid whether I'm on YouTube or not. My best payment would be the truth. Oh yeah, that's my goal. To be a thorn in the side of YouTube. But what time is it? Excuse me. Trick out the shed though. What? That shed's already gone. I built it for one reason. And it wasn't even on camera. And all my lives aren't monetized. They're not allowed to be monetized because I play music in the background. It's ridiculous. I think if they're gonna have, if they're gonna operate in the United States, they should have to go by our rules. And also, why can't I record something off of Facebook? I mean, off of YouTube. Something's already on YouTube. I put it in a video, and they give me a copyright strike. I can't put something in my video that's already on YouTube. It don't make no sense. I'll do exactly what I want, sirs and ma'ams. But make sure y'all go over to Dago. I'm not sure what this shit's called. Dago True Crime Cafe, I think. Leave here and make sure you go over there. But now that I'm set up, I'll be back on tomorrow. Probably each morning. See if what's going on with a couple people. No, I mean I still don't know. Yeah, no, I don't know. I ain't worried about Nancy. The only thing I'm worried about Nancy for is that IGG shit. That's the only reason I watch that, because I want that IGG shit needs the slowest roll. It needs the slowest roll all the way down, and that's what we did earlier. I was going through and I was showing the what was it called? Shit. Basically, the rules of how it's supposed to be used, the scope, the case criteria. IGG in that paper said it was only supposed to be used in violent crimes and identifying human remains. That's it. But see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.